Welcome back.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Tara. This is Joshy.
I'm Tara.
You're Tara too?
Yeah, no, I'm Josh. Very nice to see you all.
I'm Tara and Josh.
So we're going to talk about what today? Instilling confidence.
Welcome to our YouTube channel, by the way. But one of the things we wanted to talk about was instilling confidence in our daughters, and the pressures that come with girls, but like what we have done and what we also continue to do to instill confidence in our girls who are now adults.
Young women. Right?
Young women,
Yes.
right, exactly. It's actually interesting because I actually just had this conversation, I just remembered this, with the girls when we were on our New York trip. Because I was
What
telling
did you talk
them,
about?
well, we were talking about their confidence level, so I didn't even think about that until I just turned on the camera. But we were talking about their confidence level, and one of the things that we were talking about was, their modeling careers, and we were kind of going through all the different things that they did as kids, and Sophie totally forgot that she truly was in a modeling career as a child.
I wouldn't say career.
Well, they had call times and they had
Yes.
work permits, and they were
Right.
we took them to auditions and they had to memorize lines, and Sophie forgot how often that was going on in the house. And we were just kind of reminiscing about it and how important it was. We sat with them and they would learn their lines. And I always said to the girls that I always felt like teaching them how to feel comfortable in front of people really started at an early age when we were taking them to these auditions and call times, because they had to step away from their parents and they had to get in front of adults basically and audition. And both girls said that they actually agreed with me. We were in this conversation about their confidence because we've got pretty confident girls, for the most part. I think it honestly, we made them feel comfortable to get in front of people. Sophie took a little bit longer to do that with. Sydney was pretty good from the very beginning. She just kind of got in front of people and liked to talk. But I do think it made a difference, and we did have this conversation. And I think for us, when the kids were always little, we were always putting them out there and we're taking them to places. We would have them order their own meals, with which sounds kind of stupid, but when you're at a restaurant, making sure that you have the confidence to be not talking to yourself and being careful what you're saying, but speak to somebody, or tell your teacher you did something that something is wrong and you don't feel right about it. So those are the things that we did a lot when they were little.
Yes,
I'm having a hot flash.
I also think that having a hot flash.
I'm having a hot flash.
I also think, that it was modeling a little bit, certainly. But, I think both girls would say that. Sydney, I think certainly would say that. And it sounds like Sophie does also. But I think more so it was just from very early on, we always put the girls in situations where they were not forced, but strongly encouraged to communicate with adults. Always talk, not be shy, put themselves out there. Like you said, whether it was going to a restaurant, going to a restaurant, or just being in social settings with us, with friends or family or strangers. It was always strongly encouraged and really, I don't want to say forced upon them, because that sounds a little bit forceful, but they always were very much encouraged and strongly supported to communicate with adults, to people, with people older, much older than them, whether they were in authoritative situations such as teachers, or folks that they went to, dance instructors, or whatever it might be. They were always encouraged, and always from very early on, in communication with adults. And so I think that was a big part of it.
Sophie would say, when you're talking to her now, she said, I always felt like I had such a support system, so that if I did go talk to a teacher or go stand up for myself, that she always said that I knew that no matter what, behind the scenes, you were going to cheer us on and make us feel like we felt comfortable to go to do those things.
I think we can take part credit for it, and then part of it is, a big part of it is just the two of them and who they are and who they've grown into being. Sydney, like you said, it came, I think, a little bit more natural and easier for her early on in her early years. And now, you fast forward to today, and Sophie stands up in front of, anyone. So I would put on, and I say this not joking and not even half joking, but I would put her in front of Congress.
Oh, 100%.
And,
Yeah,
and she'd be able to hold her own with,
100%.
with folks of that caliber at a really, really young age. And so, yeah, I think that, it's a combination of a lot of things. It's a combination of those things that we just talked about when they were much younger. And then as they've gotten into young adulthood where they're at now, I would say the last, 4 or 5 years, they have been exposed to, different types of people and situations, and relationships, and opportunities to be in rooms with people, and whether they be speaking engagements at conferences, whether they be pitching new business opportunities, whether they are out there, whatever they're doing on the philanthropic push, through their academic careers in college, with their professors. Yeah, they have something within the two of them, and we try and remain pretty. You and I never really talked a significant amount about our girls to a lot of, like we did, but we never really talked in a braggadocious manner of like
Totally.
how we feel how great they are, of course, but we also, like so many times over the years and still today, get such great feedback from different people that of just what what great young women they are. But this has been happening for years and years, leading up to it. But we've never really, you and I have never really put that out there into the public space, and we've just kind of let it be.
And so when we were coming up with the topic today, actually, I texted the girls and I'm like, hey, what should we talk about? And they both wrote back, they go, you should really tell everybody how fabulous we are. And it's so cute, like in a cute way, but like, I want them to feel that about themselves. So it's really sweet, like that they say that, because to me, it's not in a bad way. Like I love that these two young women actually feel wonderful about themselves, that they can say that.
They do.
We've also sorry, baby. We also said to them that like it's okay to fail. It's okay. Like it's not incredible to fail, but like it's okay. And you can pick yourself back up and, like Sophie would say, get back on your horse. But like do what you need to do. So it's okay if you get in front of somebody and you present something, but it's not like perfect. It's okay to have those mistakes.
For sure. No, I mean, that's, one of the things that, I've always said to them early on and for years is that, it's like, and I forget where, it's an old adage, but, there's always someone stronger, there's always someone smarter, there's always someone wealthier, there's always someone faster than you, there's always someone, whatever it might be, there's always someone who has a leg up on you in some capacity. And so, but that's okay. So it's just, you give it your all and you give it your best. And also, being a dad to two daughters, it's always been very important to, for me to instill in them, not to ever rely on a partner. Not, in this case, a man for both of them. Never always put themselves in a position where no matter what happens in life, that they're able to take care of themselves and they're able to pay their own way and pay their own bills and live their own lives. And I think with that has come a lot of just self-confidence, and you're obviously their biggest cheerleader, alongside me, but you are a massive support system for the two of them, and they look to you as being a really strong woman. And I think as they have gotten older, specifically Sophie, I think even more so now than ever before, she looks at you. I see how Sophie looks at you today in a way that she's never looked at you before. She always has loved you. She's always respected you. But she's now at a point in her life, I think, from not just an education standpoint, but just from a life standpoint, that she like really, really, really looks up to who you are as a person and as her mom and all of that. And I see that. You probably feel it, is my guess. Maybe you don't, I don't know. But that's something that I definitely have seen a big change in, like an evolution. Not that she hadn't before, but it's just like it's a different level at this point. I'd say the last year or so in particular. I think maybe since she graduated college and she's kind of starting out in life. And Sydney's always had that.
But you've also said to the girls like that no matter what room they're in, they belong at that table. Like if they're at that table, they belong at that table. And that's a huge thing to instill into your daughters, I always thought was so important, because it is so, especially as a woman, you come to like a table with a bunch of other people, which in a lot of cases, in most businesses, it's a lot of men, right? That you're sitting at a table with.
Yes.
And so you feel like you have to talk louder, you have to be stronger, you have to do whatever. And it's so impressive to watch these girls, because you've said that to them for so many years, that when they sit down at a table with whoever they're sitting at in business, how they can hold their own. Like, to the point where almost like,
well, it's not just business. It's even in social settings.
Even in right, exactly.
Just having a discussion about current events, or
Yes.
having a discussion about historical events. I don't even know what the hell Sophie talks about half the time. She's so fucking smart. So
She really
yeah.
is.
Not that Sydney, not that you are not smart. You're just smart in a different way. Sophie, I don't even know what she says. So
He does kind of sometimes stare at Sophie, and he's like,
sometimes, all the time. And then she looks at me and she's like, "So you don't get what I'm saying?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Do you want to know what I'm saying?" I'm like, "Not really," she says, because it's just like way over my head. But
we also don't know
But-
how they became so
but
smart.
it is.
It wasn't from us.
But it is very true that, and I say I want you to adopt that too. I still think you struggle with that sometimes. You've gotten a lot better.
I'm pretty confident in some things.
You've gotten, in a lot of things you're confident in, yeah, but you've gotten a lot better at it. But for a long time, I would say to you, you don't give yourself enough credit. Do you recall that?
No, I know that.
Years,
Yes,
I would say
absolutely.
that to you. Like, you don't give yourself, I always felt as though you never gave yourself enough credit for being as smart as you are.
Well, I just know that I think there's things that I do know and things that I definitely do not know,
No, of
and I
course,
don't
well,
like.
that's for any of
but
us.
also,
But-
I quit work at a very young age, so I wasn't putting myself into situations.
But it's not.
that-
But it's not all about work. It's also, I'm like you just said. I'm a big believer that if you are in a room, no matter
Yeah.
whether it's work wise or whether it's just a social setting or you're just getting to know people or you do know people, you're there for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're at if you're at the table, you have a voice, and
Yep.
So, I mean, there are certainly there are times when you're at a table, and all of us take a step back and you listen more than you talk. and
Oh,
stuff
that's
like that.
that's absolutely the case.
But there's also, and we all should be like that.
100%.
But there's also, in my opinion, there is a reason why people are put in a room or put in a situation, and that's because you deserve to have a seat at that table, no matter what it is. With the girls, I think it's they're very dynamic, the two of them. They're extraordinarily strong in many ways, and they continue to just thoroughly impress me as their dad. But it's really cool and special and unique to see two young women of their ages that are as strong and as intelligent and as disciplined as they are. They just continue to grow.
One of the
That's what I would
things
say.
that I've always done since the kids were babies, I mean, I think I know, I still do it every day of their life. I say, like, you're the cutest, most beautiful, most smart person in the entire world.
Smartest.
The smartest person, exactly, in the entire world.
Sydney would correct you
She
right
totally
away
would have
in 2
corrected me right
seconds.
now. But you are the smartest kid in the entire world, except for your sister.
Except for your sister.
And I would say that from one to the other. Or you're my favorite oldest child, and you're my favorite youngest child, and you're way better than the other one. But like, I still to this day, like, if you ask them what is the one thing I have always said, and those are the things, like, you're literally the smartest kid in the entire world ever, like, ever. As a parent, I think it's, easy to get caught up, like, when you're raising your kids and you forget about these things and you feel that about your child, but you don't always say those things. It's also important for them to hear. And I do think that has helped them significantly, because
Absolutely.
if you ask them, they'll be like, yeah, I'm literally the smartest kid in the history of the world ever, other than my sister.
And I think that it's like hearing what you just said about Sophie's observation of, like, she always felt support, like she would have the support behind her if she had a situation. I think that's what you just said. A situation that she would, like, not be feeling that she was super successful in, or she was having a tough time with something, but she would always, she felt as though, that's great to hear, that she feels and feels that she always has had and does have the support behind her, from the two of us, from her sister. She has that support. And I mean, I don't think, like with Soph, I don't think it's any more evident than, her last semester of college, which was miserable for her, for so many ways. And, and she having a really, really, really hard time. And, to the point where, it got to like, she was ready to like quit and not finish up, and you were like, you don't have to finish school. And I get where you were coming from, but I then, my perspective at that point was a little bit more of like, I was loving as much as I could be loving with her, of course. And when she would call at 5:30 in the morning and was having a really tough time starting her day or even getting through that morning, I was like, you're not stopping. You're 2 months away. You're 3 months, whatever it was, 3 months away. You're 2 months away. You're not stopping. And so I think like
there was a yin and yang approach on that though. Like
no question.
I mean, because ultimately we would have supported either way she went. You were like, you're this close and you're like right there. And
because I know her that she would have absolutely kicked herself in the ass.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But my approach was I was seeing my kid fall apart, and like there's nothing worth it to me, especially when you have a teacher that literally was bullying her. But
back to the other
but she knew she had the support either way. That was the thing. You were giving her one side, I was giving her on the other. In the end, she knew that both of us were going to come together and support her either way. It's just that she was being cheered on in two different ways where she knew support was coming at her either direction she was going to go in.
Right.
And that was really important because that could have been like a life-altering decision in any direction that she decided to go in. And it turns out it worked out very well because she really kicked this person's ass by getting incredible jobs and so opportunities. But for us, being able to see that and really witnessing it, if we weren't so blessed to be with our kids to work with them too, we wouldn't even be able to see the stuff that they would go out into the world and do, right? Like, so they'd take meetings and they would come back and tell us stories about it, but we wouldn't actually be able to witness it with our own eyes. And it's been pretty amazing to see.
It's more than meetings though. It's like they both have like so much in terms of what they do behind the scenes.
They've got really good charisma.
Just organization and analytical thinking, and just it's not just meetings and how they present themselves to people and how they carry on. I think that it's
coordinating events and, like you said, the organization of what they do and their skill set is so insane, and like what they're able to accomplish at their young ages. But it's really amazing to witness that, whereas a lot of people don't get to witness that because they're not working directly with their kids. So I look at it and I go, okay, well, we did a pretty damn good job. Look, we were 24 years old. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing. But like, we obviously did know what the fuck we were doing when we started having kids. And we also, the other thing that I thought was that I really encourage other parents to do, and take what you want from this, but whatever the kid's skill set was, we always tried to like help them flourish in what that interest was. So, we never made them feel like they had to compete with each other in any way, because whatever it is that they like thrived in, we helped boost that. And we always encourage the other person never to have jealousy of the other one, and to always go and support what the other child is doing. So, and the truth is, they didn't have the same interests. I mean, they started where I put them both in dance together. I mean, not together, but they were both in dance, or they were both in modeling. It didn't matter, and they ended up finding their own paths of what they had interest in. But we always, always, always encouraged and said to them, jealousy is not an option here. It never, ever, ever is. You will literally support this person, whatever it is they're going to do. And I think that helped them significantly personally with confidence level, because Sydney thrived, and she's got a very different, like, she's very organized and very analytical. And I mean, she could hold her own in any like situation. And Sophie is the exactly the same way, but like in a different capacity. Like, they both have their different ways of doing it, and they both work, and they both support each other with that. And they truly I've never seen them a day in their life be jealous of the other one, which is remarkable, because that never happens. Jealous or envy. Never. And I think it just has to do with, and again, this is just like some advice in our takeaway, if you can encourage never to be jealous of your sibling or to always be there and support whatever it is that your sibling is doing, they will just grow to have that bond of like supporting each other. And I think that ultimately helps with their confidence, because if Sydney does something, Sophie's cheering her on. And if Sophie's doing something, Sydney is cheering her on.
Right.
And that's pretty incredible.
It is.
You know.
Can you all tell you have a proud mom right here? She's talked for, we're on here 21 minutes. I think I got in 4 minutes. So 17 minutes or so.
I could talk about them all day.
Yes. I echo everything you said. I think that, we take some credit for how they've come out, but we also have gotten extremely lucky with both of them, and I look at, like, to your point of the no jealousy, the no envy, the no competition between each other. And, and I would say that there is no better big sister ever that I've ever come across, or older sibling that I've come across than Sydney.
No, Sophie said the reason why she was, Sydney was born to take care of her.
Yeah, and still to this day, Sophie says that.
Right, and Sydney goes, you're right. So,
right. So I would say that, from that standpoint, Sophie, even further to Sophie's comment of, Sophie didn't just have 2 people always behind her. Sophie had 3 people always behind her.
When Sophie was struggling at school, who was going behind the scenes to figure out her credits, to figure out the best way to get her through the system?
It wasn't even behind the scenes. It was just she jumped right in and.
Well, I'm saying Sydney helped, she helped, and then made sure that the school knew, this is what she's hitting, these milestones. You can't fuck her over. So she had her sister, absolutely.
Of course, always does.
Yeah.
And Sophie, as Sophie's gotten older, always has Sydney's as well. And
she'll take anyone out for her sister.
Yeah, there's no question. And they just have, and so we have a lot of luck too, just between the 2 of them and the relationship that they have, which is, to this day has been unbreakable and just a tremendous bond. So yeah, we're super, super fortunate. Yeah, and the 2 girls, they, it's an amazing thing to see as a parent. Sydney has been invited to participate in multiple conferences and as a panelist, as a moderator of fireside chats. She goes into, with us moving to Nashville most of the time and her in Chicago, she's put herself out into the Chicago community in a way which is absolutely tremendous for someone her age, for anyone's age, let alone her age, where she, and she and I have talked about this many times over the last few years, the importance of her going out there and just walking into a room by herself at times, not knowing anyone. Mm-hmm. And she does it, and she does it like an absolute, like a total stud. And so, which is amazing. And then Sophie, on the other hand, has attributes that are just continue to almost literally every week with her.
She's the voice for the voiceless.
Something is just changing and evolving. She's evolving and just getting more and more sophisticated with her thinking and her thought process and how she views the world. And the funny thing is between the 2, there are many funny things, but the 2 of them are so similar in many ways, but they're so different. Sophie is so deep in terms of her education, her self-education, and her reading and her research and everything that she has going on. And Sydney will just check out of the conversation, just like me. When it comes to,
I just witnessed it in New York. We were in a really deep conversation, and Sydney was staring at her, and the whole time Sophie was giving this deep thought. And
Sydney texted me one-on-one, I think, during one of those conversations.
And Sydney, the only thing she got out of it is she heard food. She wanted food.
I think if I look up,
Sophie was literally in such a deep thought of just a bunch of information.
If I keep talking for a second.
And it was hilarious because Sydney was like,
really fast.
So food, I heard food out of that. It was very funny.
Yeah.
And it's totally their personalities.
It is. Yeah, no, keep going. Just keep talking.
The other thing,
just looking for something.
well, I will say, which is, God, it is storming again down
here it goes.
Okay, yeah.
Dude, you won't believe the convo Moo and Sophie are so invested in. You and I would be staring at each other, cackling at how intense this is. Sophie started her monologue about how the rosemary on the French fries is really good for your eyes, and that she has been doing research on herbs to make your own tea.
Yes, that's it.
Then it turned into the history of Kabbalah, and how it got our ancestors murdered by the Catholic Church. Now we're on to the first female pirate from China.
Yep.
And then I said to her, oh, that's out of my brain power.
Yes,
So-
and also
so that's-
Sydney heard at the end of it, she's like, so we want French fries.
Right.
And that's all she heard. And so, well, we were a little confused. Sophie, like, she researches, I've never seen anyone research more random things in my life, but she just, like, she gets information in her head and she wants to, like, go with it.
Yeah.
And she just can spew out so much information. And it's crazy because we just talked about this. She was dyslexic. She's dyslexic. She's dyslexic.
Yeah.
And she could not read at all. And now she can't stop. It's just, it's the most
Yeah.
mind-boggling thing. But that's a whole other story. But it is true. Like, they're so similar
Yeah.
and they're so different,
So
but like
different.
it just works.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is really impressive, I mean, Sydney's had a boyfriend for a decade now, and Sophie has a boyfriend for a year, almost going to be a year and a half.
Yeah.
But they are not girls that are needy. Like, you know, they don't like, you know, they want to be with their boyfriends in incredible ways. You have brought them up in a situation where they're like, you don't need to have this. Don't rely on this. And they just are the perfect combination when you watch them. They're very low maintenance about stuff. They're very like, you know, they'll take different trips. They'll go up and meet up with each other. They spend time with their boyfriend, but they also know how to separate their time and spend time with their friends and do their own thing. And that's a rarity, like, especially for young girls. Like, a lot of times it happens where they just, you know, you get a boyfriend or you're doing something and you forget about everything else in your life. And
they're both
they just don't do that.
No, they don't, and they're both, you know, they're both big into, you know, big into self-care, you know, mentally, physically, you know, mentally, emotionally, physically. So, yeah, to your point, you know, they're not, you know, they have not glommed onto. They love their boyfriends deeply, but at the same time, you know, I think that they've seen, but they see that, you know, from, I think, hopefully from our relationship too. You know, you're not needy, you know, and so you kind of
Correct.
do your own thing and.
Well, I'm needy at times, but yes.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to be
Whatever,
I'm
shut
trying to
up.
be a gentleman here. So, no, I'm kidding, but I'm joking. But you know, but I think they see
You're
that.
needier than me.
No, I don't think so. Probably not. So, but back to the girls. Yes, the girls are wonderful. At their ages, they blow me away in terms of what they can do. And I don't just say that, you know, because I'm their dad, and you're right in the sense that, you know, we work together. So it gives us a real benefit. There's a real benefit and it gives us a really cool vantage point to be able to see how they respond to people, how they react to people. You know, and every once in a while I'll jump in and give maybe just like a little bit of, you know, constructive criticism or something like that. You know, my guess is you probably don't do that because everything the girls do is perfect.
Obviously.
Right.
Although
So,
they jump
but-
in and give me constructive criticism.
Oh yeah, yeah, but you don't take very well at times.
That's not true.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay. Girls, I just went to bat for you. Okay, on that one.
Girls, I
so-
just went to bat for you.
Yeah, right. So, so.
I just said you're perfect.
Yes, you did. You say that all the time, which they are. Yeah, so we love them, and yeah, so we take a little bit of credit for how they have turned out thus far, and then again, we are just super fortunate, and we've also gotten some real luck along the way coming our way, you know, for who they are. So
this was our little TED talk on our daughters, but
I think, yeah,
I'm hoping you get something to take away from this.
Yeah, and I'll just close it out with, I think, where you were starting at, because I do think that that's a really, really important piece and a foundation. It was like a real critical piece of the foundation to what happens today with them, is that they were put out there early on by us to communicate with adults. You know, it's also a little bit of a different time. They weren't, you know, but we never put an iPad in front of them, cell phones in front of them. They're a little bit older before that whole generation has started, but even I think in today's world, I think you and I would have had probably a little bit of a different perspective than some other folks today in terms of how kids are raised. But that's not saying that it's bad. That's just saying that that's not how
It's
you
just
and I
different.
did it.
Yeah,
it's
it's just
different.
different.
And so, yeah, so thank you all for listening.
Leave any comments
Yes,
or any
and,
information.
appreciate
share.
you listening to us rave about our daughters, which we usually do. We usually don't in public. So, but we
No,
do.
we're just doing it in our own kitchen.
Yes.
Thank you all for listening. Stay tuned to other episodes of our Tara and Josh YouTube channel.
Come stand a little closer, I'll drop dead.